El Salvador, a small nation in Central America, has been grappling with gang violence for decades. In 2022, a new chapter in this fight began with the inauguration of the Terrorism Confinement Center, or CECOT, the largest prison in the world. Built to hold 40,000 inmates, CECOT stands as a symbol of the government's unwavering commitment to crushing gang activity and restoring peace to their troubled nation. This mega prison, located in a remote area surrounded by dense jungle, is designed to isolate some of the most dangerous criminals from society. Its construction marked a turning point in El Salvador's approach to law and order, signaling a zero-tolerance policy towards gang violence. The sheer scale of CECOT, its remote location, and the strictness of its regime all point towards one goal: to dismantle the gangs that have held El Salvador hostage for far too long. Since its opening, CECOT has rapidly filled with inmates, most of whom were arrested during President Nayib Bukele's aggressive crackdown on gangs. The majority of these individuals are young men, many barely adults, who bear the marks of a life entangled with gangs. Their faces, etched with a mixture of defiance and despair, tell stories of poverty, lack of opportunity, and the lure of belonging that gangs offered. The process of arriving at CECOT is dehumanizing. Stripped bare, shackled, and herded onto buses, the inmates are processed like cattle. Their bodies are scanned for tattoos, each marking telling a story of their rank, their crimes, and their allegiance within the gang. Many argue that the mass arrests, often based on flimsy evidence like tattoos or residing in gang-controlled areas, have swept up innocent people, raising concerns about due process and human rights. Life inside CECOT is one of relentless routine and strict discipline. Inmates, clad in identical white uniforms, their heads shaved bald to prevent identification and the hiding of contraband, are confined to overcrowded cells, each holding 80 to 150 men. Their days are regimented, starting with a meager breakfast of beans and tortillas, followed by hours of forced inactivity, broken only by occasional work assignments, or the rare opportunity for outdoor exercise in a concrete courtyard. The prison authorities argue that the austere conditions are necessary to maintain order and break the spirit of the gangs. Basic amenities like bunk beds, a thin sheet, and basic hygiene supplies are provided, but personal possessions are strictly forbidden. Meals are basic, designed for sustenance rather than enjoyment, and there are concerns about nutritional deficiencies and the lack of proper health care within the prison walls. CECOT is a fortress designed to prevent any possibility of escape. Towering walls topped with razor wire encircle the complex, while armed guards patrol the perimeter and watchtowers provide a panoramic view of the surrounding jungle. Inside, a network of surveillance cameras monitors every corner, leaving no space for privacy or for plotting. The presence of hundreds of heavily armed guards, equipped to quell any hint of unrest, serves as a constant reminder of the iron fist that governs life within CECOT. The prison's communication systems are jammed, cutting off inmates from the outside world. This isolation, while intended to disrupt gang communication and prevent further criminal activity, also raises concerns about the mental well-being of the inmates and their ability to maintain contact with their families. This lack of communication feeds into a climate of fear and uncertainty, both within the prison walls and among the families who are left wondering about the fate of their loved ones. Section 5. The mark of the gang tattoos and affiliations. Tattoos, once symbols of pride and belonging for gang members, have become their downfall. The intricate designs, often covering large portions of their bodies, served as visual testaments to their loyalty, their rank, and their criminal past. Now, these same tattoos are used by authorities to identify gang members, often leading to their arrest and incarceration in CECOT. The prison holds members from rival gangs, most notably MS-13 and Barrio 18, two of the most powerful and ruthless criminal organizations in El Salvador. Within CECOT's confines, these rivalries are tightly controlled, with any sign of gang activity swiftly and brutally punished. The prison authorities, aware of the potential for violence, maintain a strict segregation policy, keeping members of different gangs separate to prevent clashes. However, the deep-seated animosity between these groups remains a simmering tension within the prison, a constant threat that requires unwavering vigilance. Affiliations 6, Silence on the Streets, the impact of the crackdown. President Bukele's crackdown on gangs, culminating in the construction of CECOT and the mass arrests, has had a dramatic impact on El Salvador. Homicides, once a daily occurrence, have plummeted. Streets that were once battlegrounds are slowly returning to normal. Businesses are reopening and people are cautiously venturing out after years of living in fear. The government points to these statistics as proof that their hardline approach is working, that the sacrifices are justified in the name of peace and security. However, the long-term consequences of this crackdown remain unknown. Critics argue that the decline in violence is unsustainable without addressing the root causes of gang membership: poverty, inequality, and the lack of opportunities. They fear that the mass incarceration, often without due process, is creating a new generation of hardened criminals, fueling resentment and pushing the country towards a future where violence remains a constant threat. Section 7. A question of ethics balancing security and rights. The methods employed in El Salvador's war on gangs have sparked intense debate around the world. While many applaud the decrease in violence, others question the ethical implications of these tactics. The mass arrests, often based on scant evidence, raise concerns about due process and the presumption of innocence. The harsh conditions within CECOT, the lack of rehabilitation programs, and the reports of abuse have drawn criticism from human rights organizations. The government argues that extraordinary situations demand extraordinary measures, that the rights of the many outweigh the rights of the few who threaten the safety and security of the nation. However, the question remains, can true peace be built upon a foundation of human rights violations? Is it possible to find a balance between security and justice, between protecting citizens and upholding the fundamental principles of a democratic society? Section 8. The price of peace. Long-term implications. The long-term implications of El Salvador's approach to tackling gang violence are still unfolding. The country is engaged in a high-stakes gamble, betting that the short-term gains in security will outweigh the potential long-term costs. The massive investment in security infrastructure, the strain on the judicial system, and the social and economic consequences of incarcerating such a large percentage of the population will have lasting repercussions. The success of this endeavor hinges on the government's ability to address the underlying societal issues that fuel gang membership. Creating opportunities for education, employment, and social mobility will be crucial in preventing the cycle of violence from repeating itself. If these issues are not addressed, CECOT risks becoming a breeding ground for resentment, a ticking time bomb that could explode with devastating consequences. Section 9. The future of CECOT, a legacy yet to be written. The Terrorism Confinement Center stands as a stark symbol of El Salvador's fight against gangs. Whether it will be remembered as a successful deterrent or a tragic misstep remains to be seen. Its legacy will be shaped by the choices made today, both within the prison walls and in the wider society. The world is watching, waiting to see if El Salvador can break the cycle of violence and build a future where peace and justice prevail. The story of CECOT is not just about bricks and mortar, guards and inmates. It is a story about choices, consequences, and the enduring human struggle for security, justice, and a better tomorrow. Only time will tell what the future holds for El Salvador and for the thousands of souls confined within the walls of the world's largest prison.